Jim D. Lou. Welcome back on Facebook Live and Twitter and YouTube, all three of them. You got them going. And also on AM and FM radio and on the TuneIn app. I do a little opening of, trying to do it at 5:30 to about 5:50, but I was a little late this morning. I woke up at 4 o'clock today. And every time I wake up early to like prep for the show, because I didn't do it last night because I had to work, and I do it, I get up at 4 and I start prepping. Next thing you know, it's always a rush right at the end. You know what I mean? If I wake up at 4:30, which is the normal time, and I get up and I read a little bit, and then I look at what's going on. I get in the shower about 10 to 5. And then I get out of the shower about 5:05, and then I'm driving over here at 5:10. I get here at 5:20. That's like the normal. It just works. But if you get up earlier, you think you have all this time. Jimmy, you just turn that off. There you go. You get a different rhythm, and you wind up coming in late, and that's what happened today. I think I started at 5:40. Hey, 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west. That's not so bad. Lepan at 6:05 here in the Calumet region. And Jimmy Mulaney's going to throw the traffic up there, but 294 looks good. 80 going east and west. Bishop Ford, a little bit of tightness at the merge. Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65. We were expecting some big problems on the morning commute. I mean, it's just not a, it's sleety and icy and it's nasty out. But things are moving, and I was just out there. It's kind of weird. After having one of the, I don't know, I think I went like 5 or 6 places yesterday, and everywhere I went, I walk into Minor Dawn, and I know Carol, the waitress there, and all the other servers, and Joe Samar and his son there. And then I even knew some of the people that were eating there, and every one of them that I talked to, I probably talked to 4 different people. My daughter hates that. Dad, we're going to Minor Dawn. You can't talk to everybody. You and I are just going to sit there and tell everybody to go away. Well, I'm on the radio, man. I love the region. When people talk to me, I want to talk to them. All right. But I did talk to a few. Every last one of them is like, oh, my God, I can't believe the weather. Then I had a class last night with my broadcasting team. And I think all 10 of them came last night, right, Jimmy? I think all 10 made it. No, Sonny Santana. This is a weird one. Sonny Santana's in the broadcasting class. And out of everybody, he loves it the most. He actually does some work for us here. And he works right across the street at Berry Brothers. And so he had to watch us through the window doing our class. And he was just jonesing to be here. But all of these students were coming in and was like, man, it's just so cold out and nasty. And it was cold and nasty yesterday. It is in our souls. I don't know what to tell you. It's the #1 topic of discussion. And that should move out a little bit today. Let's call it a high around. So from this point on, when I need to look at my phone and I'm not entirely prepared, I'm just going to chant in Ishka Malufka language. And you guys can chant along with me. Let's see, a high of, say, 45-ish, but it's going to be so sunny today. I'll tell you what I did yesterday. It's a high of 45. And then tomorrow, a high of 53 and a little bit of sunshine. Kind of cloudy and mostly cloudy on Saturday with just a tiny bit of sunshine, a high of 54. And then by Sunday, if you're a little older, if you're over like 65, sometimes you say Sunday. And then you don't say Saturday, you say Saturday. Would you say, when's that game? Saturday. What day is it on? Saturday. And then what day do you go to church? Sunday. Anyways, a high of 59 on Sunday. And then by Monday, a high of 57. So next week, highs in the 50s mostly. So we're not really getting that really warm swoop through the region, but we are going to get a little break from just the nastiness. Snowy, rainy, nasty last night, heat on all night long, and getting up and bundling up and got a big old bulky sweater on. This is what your inside is saying right now. Let me give you the sounds of your inside. You ready? Anyways, there you go. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. We did some weather. That's brought to you by Laborers Local 41, of which I am a proud alum. And then our traffic is brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. If you guys are watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you'll see right behind me that there is a beautiful glow. And I'm going to sit over here as the sun comes up just because I can, and we're very windows filled at the Strachan Van Til Studios here at Purdue Northwest. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that's going on here locally. I started to talk about it in the JED in America segment, and that is that Pete Visclosky is in Washington, and he's asking, hey, please, oh please, give us hundreds of millions of dollars to be the federal match for the West Lake Corridor South Shore line. And then I think that one is budgeted in the 650 range. And then the double tracking system, which would be, if you guys, if you've never taken the train, most people in the region have taken the train. Unless you're like a kid, like Chris Cantar's kid who's forced to listen all morning long. And there's a lot of kids. Now, I want to, before we go on and talk about the train, I want to just talk to parents. You know, it's a weird world. Your kids are on their phones all the time. They may even have a Fortnite problem. And there's one thing that you can do that parents and grandparents and parents of grandparents have done for generations around here. It doesn't matter if you moved from Illinois or you're from Ohio and you met a Chesterton chick and you wound up living in Crown Point, whatever it is. There's a tradition here that you make your kids listen to WJOB in the morning, and then they roll their eyes, and it's just you don't make them do that much with electronic media. You know, you let them have their phones, you let them go on the internet, and that's just kind of the normal progression of things. It's really hard to keep kids out of those activities, but you can exact the discipline in the morning. You can put us on your phone in the kitchen, and if that syncs up with some sort of speaker, or you can just put it on your phone, or you put us on the video. Fairly shortly, I would say sometime in 2019, would you guys say in 2019, it's going to be pretty easy for them to click a couple buttons and get us on their TVs in their living rooms, or no? You think that's a little early? 2019 is a little early? 2020? All right, 2020. All right, within a year and a half, like 2 years, within 2 years, for some reason you can get all these other internet-based streaming services, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, all that, but they don't allow the social media ones. Don't appear on people's TVs as easily, but at some point you'll be able to put that on there, and you'll be able to see me standing right in front of the window where the sun's coming up, but there's snow on the ground. Beats the Sam Hill out of me how that happened. But anyways, Visclosky's asking for the funding out of the grant program that President Trump wants to see go away. So kind of a lot at stake in terms of construction jobs and commuting, and perhaps even the future of Northwest Indiana in terms of economic growth over the next 10 to 15 years. So we'll see what happens there. We've got a couple of crime stories I wanted to talk about. And one of them is actually involving the mayor of Portage, James Snyder. Of course, he is under indictment, and he's getting ready to go to trial on, or he might even be kind of starting that process over here at the federal courthouse. And it's kind of a weird thing, because at the national level, you have Michael Cohen, the attorney of, I don't know, out of record, I guess, of the President of the United States for many years. He got raided at 3 locations, all of his records taken. And one of the main arguments for anybody on the Cohen side, including President Trump, saying, you know, you guys are going in and you're looking at stuff that is attorney-client privilege, and even if you don't use it, if you've seen it, then you got an advantage, and you can't do that, okay? Well, as that argument is being made at the national scene, it is also being made here on the local scene, and that is by Snyder's attorneys. And the Times is doing a good job of covering this trial. I may go over this, what's going on at the federal courthouse. I might start taking an interest in this thing because, you know, I don't know why it just hasn't captured the region as, say, like Buntzich or Van Til or Pabay or any of those big trials have. But attorneys for indicted Portage Mayor, according to the Times, indicted Portage Mayor James Snyder say despite the federal government issuing 120 subpoenas, having investigated every aspect of his life and aggressive employment of wired surveillance, they still aren't answering crucial questions. And the attorney is Jackie Bennett out of Indianapolis. She is saying that wants to compel prosecutors to send over some evidence. So their defense team is arguing over whether 2 to 3 dozen emails seized by the government during the investigation are covered by attorney-client privilege. Snyder has claimed the emails they consider deal with work product or legal strategy slipped through the prosecution's review process and were unfairly seen by investigators and prosecutors, violating Snyder's Sixth Amendment rights. So, what does that mean? What if they did see them and they weren't supposed to see them? What does that leave for the judge? Who is that judge? I don't know which judge that is. But Snyder has asked the indictments be dropped because of the alleged violation, or that the present prosecuting team be dismissed. Either one of those would be huge news. Typically, defense teams don't win anything at the federal courthouse, so I wouldn't expect much out of that. I mean, it's I always make the analogy of the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals, and what was this? Kevin, the one guy who was for a long time was the attorney to go to for federal trials, and he was getting his butt kicked regularly, and I would make the joke that he was the captain of the Washington Generals. If you guys don't know the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals, then that reference falls completely flat. But if you do, if you've ever been to see Meadowlark and Curly and the rest of them perform their wares at the Hammond Civic Center or anywhere else, then you know what I'm talking about. The Washington Generals are there to lose to the Globetrotters. They play a game, and they always lose. That's just how it is. Anyways, government prosecutors have countered Snyder's claim, saying the emails in question are not attorney-client privilege, and even if they were, they do not unfairly prejudice the case. So, all right, they're not attorney-client privilege. Well, if they are, then they're not prejudicing us. So just don't worry about it. So we'll see what happens with that motion. So the reason I bring that up is that the attorney-client privilege is in the news right now. I probably wouldn't even bring that up about the Snyder case, but it's in the news with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump. And now it is in the news here with Jackie Bennett and James Snyder. So let's just say that the court starts saying, well, you know what, and none of this is really attorney-client privilege. Just, you know, the prosecutors have it. Let's just let them use it. Or, oh, you know what, maybe it is attorney-client privilege, but even, and they looked at it, but you know what, we'll just, whatever, let's just forget about it, okay? Therein lies a problem now then, right? What if all of a sudden your discussions with your attorney, even if they're on an email, what if they're on a phone and you're being wiretapped, or you have texted them, what happens then? Now, I know a number of attorneys that won't do that anyways. They won't email or text with their clients and don't really like talking on the phone with them. So I think there's just a healthy amount of skepticism on defense attorneys about who's listening and how they're going to use it, and or who's listening or watching. But it really is a a basic tenet here in America that you could talk to your attorney, and that is a privileged thing, and prosecutors can't use that, and it's always been that way. I mean, otherwise, you're just a person, and anything you're saying to your attorney is going to be used by prosecutors. Then, what's the use? Why even have the charade of a fair trial, right? You can't get good legal help, because if I talk to them and somehow the authorities are pointing a listen gun at us, or I talk to them on the phone and they're wiretapping, or I send them an email and they just grab it, then what's the use? Really? So a lot's at stake here, both nationally and here in the Calumet region, about whether what really constitutes talking to your attorney. And then what if prosecutors see it and they come in and they raid you and they see it, but that was between you and your attorney, and then they say, well, I saw it, but it doesn't prejudice me. I mean, I don't know, who makes that call? This is not a little thing. You gotta, America's based on, everybody gets a right to a fair trial, and everybody has the right to an attorney. I mean, those are things, you do your Miranda rights, and that comes up in there. So maybe just, if you really think about it, maybe the cultural shift is like, who cares? Just let the local law enforcement or federal law enforcement do what they want. Nobody cares. Because I can tell you right now, nobody's calling right now. So I'm going to take a break, because nobody gives a rat's behind, right? If somebody's getting charged with the crime, that's their problem. You know what I mean? The authorities want to look at all their stuff. Let them look at it, because they're scumbags. All right, I'll be right back. AM 1230, WJOB, and the voice and face of the region.
Do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes? St. Catherine Hospital Cardiovascular Prevention Center providers are offering free assessments to help determine your risk for heart disease and other related medical conditions. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30 a.m., you can stop by the center at 7217 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond for assessments like an ABI leg circulation test, blood pressure, body mass index, random glucose assessment, and more. You must be 18 or older, and walk-ins are welcome. You have only one body. Let St. Catherine Hospital of Community Healthcare System help you take care of it. You can also call 219-392-7CVP to book an appointment today.
My name is Ernie Dillon.
My name is Joe.
My name is Bill Emerson Sr.
We are veterans supporting our fellow veteran, Rich Novak, for North Township Board.
Rich is experienced, dedicated, hardworking, and professional.
Remember, vote on Tuesday, May 8th.
Approved and paid for by the Committee to Elect a Vet, Richard J. Novak.
JED's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you will love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight, JED's has you covered with breakfast omelets, salads, stir-fry, seafood, and steak sandwiches. In addition to our award-winning lemon rice soup, 4 additional soups are served daily. Along with our recently expanded spirits menu, Mondays are half-price margaritas, and Wednesdays are $1 off domestics. Mention WJOB for 20% off your order. We'll see you at JED's at the corner of Klein and Ridge.
Laborers Local 41, together with Indiana Laborers Training Center and our signatory employers, provide state-of-the-art instruction in all areas of the construction industry, from hazardous material handling and environmental remediation to road construction and highway safety. Remember to slow down in construction zones, and that the Local 41 members working there are mothers, fathers, coaches, and mentors. Laborers Local 41. We build Indiana in more ways than one.
This is Mike Kaiser, and you are listening to WJOB AM 1230 and FM 104.7 in Hammond, Indiana. This is Mike Kaiser, and you are listening to WJOB AM 1230 and FM 104.7 in Hammond, Indiana.
I don't know why that played twice, but it did, because I'm Dead Air D-Lo. Hey, what's going on in your guys' world? Hey, you know what? Let's have just a little bit of cheeriness on the bright spot on your radio dial. You know what I'm saying?
Rush Radio Surgery deployed.
Did I do that? Oh, I put my notebook on the space bar. And you know why that's funny? Because in the trading world, when you trade on a computer, the joke is that some guy puts a Coke can on the space bar and he just continues to keep buying 100 lots of a bond or something until he moves the Coke can. And that's how the whole world markets are going to melt down one day, as a Coke can that is leaning against the space bar. And there it was. I put my notebook right on the space bar, and it was just played Rush Radio Surgery. And you know what? It just played Men in Kilts, too. You're not hearing it, but Lakamora Barahanya Pashki. So that's like a nightmare. That's like a trading nightmare. If you, I had my own group, and I had guys trading for me, believe it or not. And once in a while, they'd lose a lot of money, and then it'd be like, "What'd you do? Put your Coke can on the space bar?" Hey, let's take a look at what happens here on traffic. 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks pretty good. The Bishop Ford coming up the gut of the Southland, 120th or so up into the merge is tight already. So keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye right now, but that's about it. Dan Ryan, a little bit heavier in a couple spots, but moving all right. And going into Jane Byrne, 35th on in. Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue, all moving along pretty well. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. What do you have on the weather? Finally, just finally, the sun is shining, but it snowed and rained, and it was so nasty. It was the knockout punch yesterday. Everybody in the region feels the coldest April on record in at least 100 years. And today it's still cold, a high of 44, but sun is coming our way. And let's see, tomorrow a high of 52, mostly sunny and cool. And then Saturday cool with periods of sun and a high of 52. And then by Sunday, when it turns cloudy, we might see 60. And Monday, we might get mostly sunny and 60. I was talking to the mailman, John, right? Ryan, is that his name? John was here, and he has said that usually by this time he's worn shorts at least a half dozen times. One time this year he was able to wear shorts, and a number of times he put the shorts on and then went back and put the long johns on and the over mailman pants. And he did that yesterday. He goes, I'm wearing right now. I go, man, you're really bundled up. He goes, I'm wearing long johns. I'm wearing over pants. I'm wearing my rain gear because it's supposed to snow. And I couldn't, in the middle of January, I don't think I bundled up this much the whole month. And here we are on April 19th of 2018. There it is. Weather brought to you by our good friends at CertifiedElectrician.com. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. Let's take a look. Hey, what's going on in your world? It's just you and me for a little while. I got some people in the 7 o'clock hour. What's going on in your world? How you dealing with the nastiness of the weather? How's that little back pain with all the, the bad weather and so forth? How's your brother-in-law who won't get a job? Anything you want to talk about. All right, let's go with Dan on local 599 phone line. Hey, Dan, how are you?
How's it going? Yeah, what a wonderful day. So I picked up the tail end of the conversation before your break, and I'm guessing that was in reference to the search and seizure of the attorney's files and how that's a breach of client privilege in general, right?
Well, the issue is up both on the national scene and here locally. James Snyder's attorneys are bringing it up. And then, of course, Trump and Cohen are claiming that when they talked, that was attorney-client privilege, yeah.
So, and one thing that you said was, that's one of our rights, right to fair trial, right to this. Well, you know what? How are we supposed to interpret those rights? Those were written a long time ago. Maybe we need to revisit them. Because there's another right, and now I'm really going sarcastic here and stuff, so don't take this too literally. There's another right that says right to bear arms. And people are questioning what that actually means. Maybe they meant something different. Maybe it is time for a change. Because when it comes to attorneys and the rights of fair trial, there's the military has their own tribal communers, right? They had their own military courts.
Yeah.
So it's a separate. So you have military attorneys. Well, maybe the founding fathers were speaking about a fair trial in the military sense, and that those attorneys have the privilege of a client relationship. And maybe that's not really what they wanted for the civilians of the new country. And now we as a country interpret that as, well, everybody could be, every attorney has that right. So maybe we need to question, if you look like a military attorney, maybe you could be as dangerous from a prosecutor's side as a military attorney in the fact that you can't, prosecute your client. So maybe we need to restrict that right because, that's a dangerous item there,
I'm not entirely following you, but
I'm just throwing that parallelism out there. It's like,
I understand. Let's just parallel it to right to bear arms. A lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? That you can bear any arm you want and there shouldn't be any restrictions on anyone. That's how some people interpret that. And now there, with all of the killings, it's like, well, geez, if everybody could do that, then you're just going to get people shooting up schools, and there's just going to be so many of them, and it's going to happen every so often, and maybe we need to review that right, okay? Right. And I get that. So are you saying, well, maybe we should review that right about attorney-client privilege? Should you really just be able to tell your attorney anything, and none of that will come out in court?
And look how dangerous it is, because let's just assume the individual is guilty, okay? Let's just assume that side of it. And he can tell his attorney everything about the case, and his defense attorney can build a good defense and actually either get charges lowered or removed or actually win, quote-unquote, a case. And the prosecution, if they had that information, could have done their job and prosecuted this person. I'm going in the zone with a bad cell, so I might jump out. You know what I mean? So it's restricting. So in the same sense that, if we have whatever out there and it could be viewed as a danger.
Could it be viewed as a danger that a client talks to their attorney? Okay, I get it. But is it? I mean, if you're talking about terrorists or people that are like, oh, did you blow? Or like, what about this guy Eric Krieg over here that they said may have sent a bomb in the mail, and he's talking to his attorney? Is that supposed to be privileged? Well, yes, it should be. But I mean, there could be an argument made that says, well, he's so dangerous and so much was at stake. Nothing's privileged. Is that what you're saying?
Well, kinda, but I'm not even going to that. I'm not trying to pick a particular case because your level of danger is different than my level of danger. Yes, you're pulling the far extreme. So,
yeah, but so what is the level of danger?
What if I'm a DUI and I can get around it with a good attorney, and my attorney says to me, "Hey, what was going on? Man, I just had too many beers on. I tried to avoid the thing, and I got caught. What can we do? Let me work with the guys. Let's see what we can do." And the next day, that guy, because he wasn't prosecuted, because the prosecutors didn't know he had 15 beers, goes out and kills someone. That's dangerous. And and that's a real thing. That happens out there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what is at stake right now on the national here and at the local level is how important is it that you talk to your attorney in confidence? And you're making an argument, well, yeah, the guy could go out and kill someone, so anything that he says to his attorney shouldn't be in confidence and should increase the chances that he's going to get prosecuted because we want him off the road. I get that. But I just, how far does that go? Hey, Dan, I'm going to think about this, but I have to think that at some level to get a fair trial, which is another right, that you have to be able to talk to your attorney. Otherwise, if you can't talk to your attorney, you're on your own. You got to go study the law yourself, and because you don't want to ever talk to anybody because they could, if they would give it up to the prosecutors.
Yeah, and I wasn't for.
All right, I did finally lose you.
Raising the debate.
Hey, Dan, we're finally losing you. Are you there? All right, we lost him. Hey, it's 6:34 in the Calumet region. And so, I mean, those aren't easy topics. Maybe is Gladys coming in today? Yeah, Gladys is here at 7:30 Dave Gladish, we'll see him then, and we'll talk about that. How deep does it go? James Snyder saying drop the indictments, and either that or just kick the attorneys that are on it off of the case because they've seen privileged attorney-client emails, and the same kind of things going on at the national level is Cohen and Trump are saying, hey, you know what? We had conversations. How are you guys looking at our conversations? He's my client, and he's my attorney. Well, it all adds up. Hey, Post-Tribune is covering a story about some exonerated guys by DNA are suing Hammond, Indiana here, right where we're at, and are also suing the Indiana State Police. The day police arrested Roosevelt Glenn in 1990, he thought the meeting called at Luria Brothers sheet steel plant was about the man he'd pulled from a conveyor earlier that day. When men in suits walked in the room, Glenn said Wednesday he figured they must have been company representatives. He wondered if the man was okay or if he was going to get a safety award for his actions. Instead, they were Hammond police officers arresting him for a gang rape. Then they began to name names, and they called my name, Glenn. I was so excited, and I was like, yeah, that's me. They said, get on the ground. It's like a nightmare to me. I still see that. Glenn and Darrell Pinkins in 1993 and 1991, respectively, were wrongfully convicted of a brutal 1989 rape in Hammond. DNA evidence later exonerated both men only after they spent a combined 42 years in prison. On Wednesday, Glenn and Pinkins sued the city of Hammond and officers from the Hammond Police Department and Indiana State Police in federal court. Allegedly framing them for the crime. The Chicago law firm of Levy and Levy is representing them. They were family men. Attorney John Levy said, one day they were going to work and they were basically kidnapped from their lives. They're being accused of this terrible rape they had absolutely nothing to do with. They have no idea what the police are even talking about. All they know is they go to work, they pay their bills, they take care of their families, and next thing you know, they're spending a combined 42 years in prison for a crime they did not commit. Levy said the case has all the hallmarks of a wrongful conviction. The complaint alleges that a Hammond police lieutenant, a detective, and 6 other officers manipulated witnesses, fabricated evidence, and withheld exculpatory evidence. The lawsuit also claims experts at the Indiana State Police Crime Lab fabricated reports linking the men to the crime, ignored exculpatory evidence against them, and offered false testimony in court. Hammond Police Department and Indiana State Police said Wednesday they had not been served the lawsuit and could not comment. So here's what happened. And this is right down the street here, by the way. And I remember this case. And, well, let me see. I won't comment on this case, but I'll just read what the Post-Tribune said. It's right around the corner. So what happened? In December of 1989, a woman was waiting at a stoplight at 165th and Parrish Avenue. So just go north of where I'm sitting here at the Purdue Northwest Commercialization Center and hang right at 165th. And you go down to Parrish, and it's right there. When a vehicle struck her car from behind, she exited her vehicle to inspect the damage. 5 men stole her purse and forced her into another car where they raped her for the next several hours. The men covered her eyes with pairs of coveralls from Luria Brothers that she still was clutching when the men released her. She has maintained that she could not identify her attackers. Levy said police paid desperate jailhouse information, informants shorter sentences if they told lies that the men confessed to the crime. A gun that was stolen from the rape victim was recovered years later in the possession of a juvenile who said he got it from someone police knew had no connection to either Pinkins or Glenn. Among other things, the lawsuit claims Hammond police failed to properly train and supervise rape case investigations and the process of suspect identification. The department had a history of, quote, improper, illegal, and unconstitutional investigative techniques. These, my friends, are deep allegations about the Hammond Police Department, and we'll leave it right there. Let's see how Donna's doing. Not good news, you know, horrible stuff. Horrible for these two guys just to be picked up at work and go to prison for 42 years between them. And then, you know, horrible that there are these kind of allegations against a past police department. I can't believe that any of that stuff really applies today. Let's take some phone calls. 219-845-1100. Donna, how have you been?
Okay, I called you yesterday about getting these here phone calls.
Yes, did you call?
Yeah, I did call the Attorney General, and she told me that they don't make phone calls to the people. She says if they have anything, they write letters, and people will get letters. And she had told me that I should probably call the police and report it. And they couldn't do anything because I don't have caller ID.
Ooh.
But she says that it sounds like a scam to her.
You know, it's weird. I did look at that AARP, AARP. I was just looking on the internet of anybody who had some pretty good information about this. Mm-hmm. And AARP has a magazine that's out this month that deals exactly with what you're talking about, which is phone scams. Mm-hmm. And one of them is dealing with like the IRS and other federal agencies, state agencies. They don't call you.
Right.
And certainly for somebody to call you and start asking about your health records seems very fishy. Mm-hmm. And it has you upset, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, you know, I've always had, I got the sixth call yesterday at 5 after 4. It has always been a woman. Yesterday it was a man that called. And I told him, I says, I called the police. I says, and you people are a scam. I says, don't ever call me again. And I just slammed my phone down. So far, I didn't get another phone call last night because usually I'll get another one in the evening. So hopefully they're going to leave me alone.
Hopefully they will leave you alone. So did you call the police and report it?
No, that's what I told him.
Yeah. So you didn't because you don't have caller ID.
Right.
Are you in Hammond?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I would not. I mean, it's not going to hurt for you to call the police and tell them what's going on. They may have other people that have reported this same thing, and maybe they can gather it together, and maybe you'll be able to help them in some way.
Well, you know, every time I try to call the police department, I always have the wrong number, or they're putting me somewhere else, and then I'm not talking to the right party. So I never know who to call.
All right, hold on a second. Now you got another point. So yesterday we gave you the Attorney General's office, and you talked to them. Okay.
Yes.
So how would you call the Hammond Police Department? Ryan, is there a way to call them? I mean, 911 doesn't go to them, correct? I'm sorry, you guys busy or what? Yeah, okay, so he's looking it up right now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I never thought of that. I mean, 911 goes to the county now, and then they dispatch someone. So I'm guessing that if you called 911, that they would dispatch an officer to your house is my guess. Right?
But to me, though, that's an emergency, you know, 911.
All right, so Ryan, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. And maybe somebody could call in and explain, what if you have something, a non-emergency? Now, 852-2900 is a Hammond police number, but I don't know if that will be able to deal with this. All right, keep listening. Maybe somebody will be able to tell us, how do you call in with something of this nature? All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you. I don't know the answer to that. You know, yeah, there's an intruder outside. Oh, 911, and it goes to the county, and then it comes back. Hey, I'll take one more phone call, and you can take a break here. Hey, Bill, how are you? What's up?
Good morning. Well, I can tell you the exact way a corporation counsel for Hammond or anywhere else or attorney should comment the allegations. No comment. No comment, no comment. We do not try cases in the media. The only thing you can do by commenting is compromise the interest of the people who represent your police officers. The city has a policy of indemnification of those officers, but I've defended them, and it isn't much comfort because it's possible a judgment could be rendered against them, which destroys their credit, They can't get a mortgage. They can't finance a car. And I've defended them in jury trials in state and federal court, and it's not a very pleasant experience for them.
So in this case of the Dinkins and Glenn, which isn't getting that much coverage, they're making some pretty deep allegations about basically previous Hammond police departments. They're saying they made up stuff.
I don't know a thing about those allegations. And as far as what I know about the Hammond Police Department and my service as an attorney for Hammond for 24 years, they've got a bunch of great guys. They're not perfect, and but even on the ones that are imperfect, absolutely no comment. These are only allegations, and commenting compromises their interest. I will comment on the case that I concluded many years ago. I defended the case for a Hammond police officer, and the plaintiffs' attorneys were a couple of guys that have become pretty successful, Ken Allen and Leon Sarkeesian. You've heard of them. Ken Allen, the guy on the television.
Yeah.
Well, you may want to ask Ken Allen about the result in that case. I won't tell you and get into self-laudation.
Well, one of the I don't know what case you're talking about, and I'd have to do a little digging, but
George Brown versus the city of Hammond.
All right, so the issue isn't whether, the character of Hammond police officers. I mean, from my experience, it's at the highest level. The issue is what happened in 1989 and 1991. And these guys spent 42 years in prison for something they did not do.
Well, this is similar to a case that was concluded many years ago called Larry Mays versus the city of Hammond. And he was in prison for a lengthy period of time. When he was released, there was evidence, there was DNA evidence that developed that wasn't around then, that they ended up suing the city civilly. I think it was a civil rights lawsuit, and there was a trial and there was an appeal, and Mr. Mays was successful.
And he got money, right?
Yeah, as I recall, he got a significant amount of money.
And that's what's at that's what's at stake here, right? I mean, if Pinkins and Glenn are successful, it could be very costly to the city of Hammond. Am I reading that correctly?
I would defer from no comment and say yes, that is possible.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Talk to you. We'll have Gladys. Now, Gladys, you have two things you got to deal with. What happens in a lawsuit like this? Who ultimately pays? And I'm guessing it's the taxpayers. And second of all, what are the issues in attorney-client privilege? Hey, I'll be right back.
Thomas M. McDermott Jr., the Hammond Parks Department, and PepsiCo are proud to announce the 14th annual Cinco de Mayo celebration to be held on Saturday, May 5th at the Hammond Civic Center from 5 to 10 p.m. Tickets are on sale now for $15 each, which includes food and live entertainment. Cash bar will be available. Mexican cuisine provided by El Gran Taco Mexican Grill, and the entertainment provided by Mariachi All-Stars, Ballet Folklorico, Fiesta Mexicana, and the band Together. For tickets, visit the Hammond Civic Center Monday through Friday or call 853-6378. For more information, visit gohammond.com.
On May 8th, vote for Democrat Andrew Silvestrowitz for Lake County Clerk of Circuit Courts. Andrew is a qualified Democrat and has 12 years of experience as a councilman in Maryville at every facet of government. Make your vote count with Andrew Silvestrowitz for Clerk of Circuit Courts. Paid for by Committee to Elect Democrat Andrew Silvestrowitz.
I am Andrew Silvestrowitz, and I approve this message. Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy.
John Salzader, candidate for North Township Advisory Board. I am fully qualified, experienced, and will bring a new face and new vision to your township government. Elect John Salzader, Salzeider, on May 8th, Democrat.
Approved and paid for by the committee to elect John Salzider.
Knock, knock. Who's there? 650 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Deedlow, host of JED in the region. Let's take a look. Finally, a little bit of sunshine. It's 35 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. And you have a beautiful sunrise out to the east. And finally, the sun should rear its head for most of the day, a high of 44. Tomorrow, high of 52, sun and clouds. And then same thing on Saturday, high of 52, sun and clouds. By Sunday, it gets a little cloudier and a high of 60, though. So not a bad weekend, especially for what we've had. It is 36 degrees in Portage at local 395, and it's 36 in Hammond here at local 599. Your normal high at this time of year is 60 degrees. And let me look if we have hit 60 degrees yet this month. Let's see. I'll go back to April 1st. All right. The high was 37, 44, 43, 35, 40, 37, 38, 40, 38, 46. Yes, remember we had those 2 days, 68 and 77. That would have been about a week ago when it got really warm. It got really warm on one day. And then the rest of them, 59, 42, 38, 34, all the rest of it. So a lot of highs in the 30s and 40s. And then 2 days, a high of right near 80 degrees and another one right at 70 degrees. So plan your days accordingly. And going forward, there it is. Weather is brought to you by our good friends at Labor's Local 41, of which I am a proud alum. And what do you have on the front of traffic? 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, a little bit heavy on the merge already. And on the southern end of the Dan Ryan's pretty heavy also. So I'll give a watch to Bishop Ford right now. Mostly because the Dan Ryan's a little bit heavy on that southern end. But going the other way, honestly, once you reach the city, once you get close, it's bad from 47th on into the Jane Byrne interchange. So even if you go the Skyway and the toll road, which are moving along well, you still have that to deal with. The Borman, that looks good. I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue are all moving along pretty well. Ryan Walsh is the sports director here at WJOB, and if we'd like to talk to him. How you doing, Ryan?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about you?
Knock, knock. Who's there? Pretty good, I guess. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's been tough with this weather. I think it really has a lot of people down. You're looking forward. Baseball starts. Your whole mood starts shifting toward, I'd like to be outside and I like to ride my bike in the afternoons and get outside and work in the yard, and none of that's happening, and I think it's bringing a lot of people down. Cubs canceling is bringing a lot of people down.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of running on the treadmill at the gym. I was a brave soldier last Saturday. I just said I can't get up and go to the gym and run inside anymore. I'm tired of seeing all the negative news on TV. I wanted to go out. I got a waterproof iPod case, so I got a rain jacket for my birthday a couple weeks ago. So I went out and ran a couple miles on the bike path. There's only 4 or 5 people out there, but it's supposed to be nice this weekend. I'm looking forward to getting out and running on the Lake Erie Wana, the best bike trail in America.
Erie Lackawanna?
Erie Lackawanna.
Yeah, it goes from downtown Hammond to downtown Crown Point. It really is. And on a nice day, like say we're going to be okay on Saturday, that thing will be packed. And it runs right through Wicker Park, and so Wicker Park kind of picks up a lot of traffic from that. So expect a 4-stroller backup at the corner of Indianapolis and Ridge, What's going on in the sports world?
We'll start with college stuff. IU baseball drops Ball State last night 9-8 in 14 innings. IU's off to their best start since 1987. We've got a Munster guy on the team again. Connor Manis, he transferred up from Miami, sat out last year, is a pitcher in relief and also has a couple starts under his belt. He's got a 1-0 record, 2.33 ERA with 11 strikeouts in 19 and a third innings pitched. The Hoosiers are now 28-6. Sticking with IU alumni Dave and Susan Roberts gave a gift to the Indiana University Bicentennial Campaign for Athletics. The major gift helps provide funding for renovation of the men's basketball team area in Simon Scott Assembly Hall. There'll be new locker rooms, new coach's office, and things like that. Purdue Twitter had a sneak preview of the opener for football. They let the cat out of the bag, no pun intended here, as they're going to play the Northwestern Wildcats on Thursday night to open the season this year. August 30th. The kickoff time has not been announced yet for Purdue, but there was a lot of optimism. Coach Braum, he thwarted off some offers from other SEC and other programs to come back for Purdue after winning a bowl game over Arizona. So it's a lot of optimism for Purdue. High school baseball, just one game last night. Lake Central rolls Maryville 21-4. Giovanni Lopez, Matt Fundage, and Jake Dykstra all brought 2 Indians runs in. And Major League Baseball, the Cubs were off with the postponement of the snow and bad weather. They got their game postponed to today at 1:20. John Lester gets the ball for the Cubs. Chicago White Sox blew a late lead, then had to recover for a run in the top of the ninth, and then they lose in 14 innings to the Oakland Athletics by a score of 12-11.
That game went on forever. Well, it started at 2:30. At 7:15, they were in the 12th inning. It was just a marathon. I can't believe they wound up losing that game. You know, they gave up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. They were winning 10-7 going into the 8th. They just got relief, man. Oh, anyways, let's go a different direction.
NBA playoffs last night. The Indiana Pacers can't overcome a lousy first quarter. They lose Game 2 of their quarterfinal series, 100-97 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're knotted up at 1 game apiece, and the series shifts back to Indianapolis this weekend. NHL playoffs last night on WJLB. The Nashville Predators take control of their series with the Colorado Avalanche, winning 3-2. The Predators now have a 3-1 series lead. NFL, we're 1 week until the NFL draft. Bears have a top 10 first-round draft pick, and they're scouting the nation still, looking at a wide receiver, offensive lineman, cornerback, or safety to draft. Those are their top priorities this first round.
He is Ryan Walsh, sports director here at WJOB. And in terms of Purdue Northwest baseball and softball?
They were going to have games today. I think it's softball. That was moved from yesterday to today. But the weather's, there's snow on the ground and ice. We'll see. Haven't got anything from Rick Costello or
so it's kind of up in the air right now, and I'm guessing they're going to try to play today. I mean, you get a high of 43.
I think they're playing 2 today.
Yeah, they're playing 2. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, if it's sunny and it snowed, big deal. They can just push the snow off, and it should have melted by then anyways. So I'm guessing they're going to play 2 this afternoon. And then on Saturday, I'll be out and announce noon and 2.
I think it's noon and 2 on Saturday.
Yeah, noon and 2 on Saturday at over here at Dowling Park. I really enjoy getting out and announcing the softball games. The baseball games are a little bit longer, and I leave those to the younger guys. But I'll take the women's softball. And anything else?
That covers sports for today.
All right, guys. 219.
Go to Johnny's Tap.
Go to Johnny's Tap. That's right. Johnny's Tap sponsors the sports.
Hey, they've got local beers now. They've got New Albert Falls from Griffith. They've got Zorn from Michigan City. They've got a couple of different ones from Three Floyds right there in Munster. So local brews, local bar.
You got it at the corner of Broadmoor and Calumet Avenue. Let's take a look at some other stuff going on around here. The it's a kind of a crazy thing. There's a couple car lots on Ridge Road in Gary and Cal Township. Well, at one of them yesterday, according to the Times, a guy was there to maybe buy a car, and he's sitting there with the salesman, and 2 guys walk up and evidently try to rob them. And turns out that the guy buying the car is packing, and he, according to the Times, shoots the robbery suspect and kills him. And it's a fatal shooting in the 400 block of Ridge Road in Gary. I don't know exactly where that is. There's a picture of the car lot here on the Times, and I guess you just don't know anymore. If you're going to rob someone, you don't know who's packing and knows how to use a gun and is just going to shoot you dead. And maybe that should be a little bit of a deterrence. You know what I mean? A second robbery suspect fled, and according to the Times, they don't have that. Yesterday, big meeting of the Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce as the East Chicago Mayor, Anthony Copeland, gave his gave a kind of a summary of what's going on, and he did it at Ameristar. Dave Ryan's group. Here's some of according to the Times, here's some of the quotes. Now, when Anthony Copeland took office as mayor in 2010, East Chicago was $15 million in debt with crumbling infrastructure and a high crime rate. Now we have a balanced budget with a $10 million surplus, Copeland pointed out during his State of the City Wednesday at Ameristar. 300 business and political leaders joined the mayor. I was not able to attend yesterday as I am in the midst of teaching and learning through my finals here, coming up on finals here at Purdue Northwest. And I would appreciate it if you guys need anything, that I don't have anything through the end of May, because we are loaded. Yesterday night, by the way, last night, our last 2-hour segment of my sports broadcasting class, they did live shows here on the radio and on Facebook Live, and they're really coming into their own. Jimmy Mulaney helped me produce. That's been a lot of work for us here in the evenings. And next week on Monday, one group will go with a 2-hour show from 6 until 8 p.m. And some of you called in, and I very much appreciated that. And the students, they just get a real kick when somebody calls their show and they just talk about it, and it really adds to the experience for them. And so on, I think it's Monday, it'll be Sonny Santana, Robert Aguirre, and Jesse Smith and Ed Clark. And those guys will do their show from 6 to 8, and that'll be their final for that class, sports broadcasting. So if you could help them out with some decent questions. And then next Wednesday, it'll be Jen and Jay and, I don't know, somebody else, Josh. So those it'll be Jen Baker and Jay Coben and Josh Salazar will be doing their show for 2 hours next Wednesday. So we've been doing these things. They've been practicing. And now the real deal comes up on Monday and Wednesday. And anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. I've completely lost my train of thought. And I have about 15 minutes here where it's just you and me, and I'd like to hear from you guys what's going on. It's not great news around the region, and we're going into the primaries here locally, and a lot of people are running in the different races, and we can talk about that. We can talk about this attorney-client privilege, both at the national and at the local level. Or we could just talk about how nasty the weather's been lately. How's that feel? All right, let's talk to Kenny about the bike path. Kenny, what's going on?
Hey, Jim, my wife, I'm sitting there waiting for the newspaper, and with the snow and everything, I'm sitting down. My wife comes running in the house. She took the dogs out, to before work, and she said, I'm right by the Highland Rookery right now. She said she's seen a huge black cat. You ever heard of that? So I call my cousin Jimmy, and he goes, Michigan Panther? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm out right now looking for him, but I mean, I'm in my truck now. But you ever heard of that?
All right, let's put it out. Has anybody now? When I was a kid, we went to northern Wisconsin, and we'd see the Black Panthers once in a while. It's right up there by UP.
Really?
Yeah, and you could see them, and I think I saw them once, but there were spottings of them. So has anybody ever seen a Michigan Panther around Northwest Indiana? I have not. I've never even heard of anybody seeing a panther around here. But she said that she saw a massive black cat.
I says cats. How big? Was it a raccoon? Was it a big? Because we got a lot of raccoons here. She says cat. I know what a raccoon is. I know what a big black cat is. We used to have them in Hawaii. She says it was a huge black cat, and it was sitting right on the trail. I'm over here right now by the Highland Rookery sign in my truck just to see if I see anything, but he's gone. But yeah, it was about 20 minutes ago.
All right, so
I went right.
I'm surprised the phone lines haven't lit up already of anybody who's seen a panther in the region. Has anybody ever seen a panther in the Calumet region?
In this area.
Remember when we had that?
I'm not saying it was a panther, but what else? I don't know what else. Like I said, my cousin just said, Miss M.I. Panther with a question mark. I'm like, I don't know. What the hell? What the hell do I don't know what the heck. I mean, it can't be a bobcat. It can't be bobcats aren't black, right?
Could it be a dog?
No, she says there ain't no dog. She knows what a dog, Just sitting there, Jim. Just sitting there. You drive your bike down there all the time.
All right, so let's talk about the rookery here. All right, what the rookery is at Klein and the Borman, basically. And it's this massive, like, little lake that's being overrun by this invasive species, but there's a lot of, like, dead trees in the middle of the water. And the trail runs along the south end of the rookery. But there is an old kind of abandoned trail that runs to the north end of the rookery. You ever go on that?
Yeah, I've been all over there.
Yeah. I went down there one time, and there were like 4 or 5 stray dogs just laying on the trail, and I never went down that way again. They were just sitting there, and I'm like, they look kind of hungry, too. Anyways, all right, I put it out there. No one's calling. No one's seen a panther, so we'll see what comes of it.
It's funny, though, Jim, because my father, he works over here all the time by my house here. And last year he says he's seen a big cat too. I'm gonna give him a call. He's down in Florida.
All right, man. Find out if you find out what it is, give us a call. All right, there it is. All right, guys. 219-845-1100. Did Kenny's wife see what? What could be a big black animal at the rookery? That could it be a panther? I don't know. You tell me. 219-845-1100. Let's see how Charlie's been. Can you get that one, Jimmy? Can you just keep on that? Thanks. Hey, what's going on, Charlie?
How you doing? When are you getting some new people on there?
Oh, you want me to get off the air?
No, like Johnny and Steve.
Okay.
And Bob Lawson. You ever heard of him?
Bob Larson?
Yeah.
No, I don't know who that is.
From WBBM.
No, I don't know who that is.
And Safety Steve.
Safety Steve.
Yeah.
God, what a character that guy was, huh?
How's he doing?
He's doing all right. I was talking to his brother-in-law the other day. How you doing, Charlie? That's what matters. How's your health doing?
Come see, not so good.
You gonna make it, buddy?
Yeah. So how's Deacon Dwayne doing?
Deacon Dwayne's doing fine. All right, Charlie, we're thinking about you, buddy. Have a good day.
Okay.
All right, talk to you. Bye. 219-845-1100. Hey, Oscar, what's this big black cat on the trail, huh?
I was going to make a suggestion. There's snow on the ground. If he could go over there and get some, maybe a photograph of the footprints.
So let's just say it is a panther.
Yeah.
Are they dangerous?
I wouldn't mess with them.
I wouldn't mess with them. That's a region way of saying maybe. Well, you never know. I mean, it's kind of weird weather. Maybe it's just pushing. And literally, the river runs a long way. I mean, a panther could make its way all this way. Remember we had a bear not too long ago in Michigan City?
Yeah. That was right in that lady's backyard.
Yeah, and they didn't want to take the bear up to Canada or anything because they said the bear would make its way back anyways, no matter where you put it. So they killed the bear, and that was kind of a sad moment. All right, anybody? Kenny's wife says she saw a massive black cat sitting on the bike trail this morning, the Little Calumet bike trail. So anybody has any suggestions what that is?
What I was going to say there, Jed, is if he could get a picture of that of a footprint in the snow and put his hand next to it so they could see the size of the paw. Now, that would be very helpful.
That's way too logical, Oscar. Oscar, do you still work, or did you used to?
No, I ain't worked in years. I'm retired.
And what did you do?
I used to drive a delivery truck.
Really? What did you deliver?
I want to say
You don't have to say what company, but what kind of goods?
buildings, paper towels, toilet paper, floor wax, janitorial supplies.
Oh, janitorial supplies, huh?
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
No.
How long since you quit doing it?
Oh, maybe, I'm trying to think. 10 years, maybe.
So what do you do all day?
Whatever I feel like doing.
Do you sometimes get confused what day it is?
No.
No, I mean, I hear from some retired guys, they can't remember if sometimes they don't know it's the weekend, you know what I mean? Oh, it's Saturday?
Yeah. No, I got a little new hobby. I got a computer now, and I'm watching you on Facebook.
It's a little delayed, so I just waved to you on Facebook. So that's one of your hobbies in the morning is to watch me?
Well, I just get up and I watch I get up early, 4:30, have coffee, and then I watch you outside yell big trucks and all that.
Hey, listen, so I'm a little confused because my entire work life I've woken up somewhere between 4 and 5 since I was about 26 years old.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'll just be straight. At some point, I'm not going to do the morning show. Some young buck will come by, and maybe I'll do the noontime show. Typically in radio, old-time owners, they move from the morning show to the noontime or the afternoon show. So at some point, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to have to be here at 5 o'clock in the morning. Do you think I'll still wake up at 4:20 or so?
I do.
Really? You don't want to sleep in?
Well, when you go to sleep about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I don't sleep 8 hours like I used to when I was working and drinking. I don't drink anymore either, and I don't smoke.
So you go to bed around 9 and you wake up at 4.
Yeah, 3:34, right around there. Yeah.
Don't you like to watch TV at night?
Well, I had the TV on, but I had the sound off.
Oh, in the bedroom?
Yeah.
So that way you feel like there's always
Right now I got you on. I got the TV on, but I got the sound off. I'm listening to you.
It's not a bad life. I just wonder, I mean, remember Joe from Highland, if you've been listening? Do you remember that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, I run into him, and I'm like, Joe, man, you never call my show anymore. Joe Capter. And he's like, hey, Jim, I quit working, and then I was retired, and at first I would stay up till 9:30, then I'd stay up till 10:30, and he's like, now I watch movies until like 1 or 2 every night, and I sleep till 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And all right.
You know what I want to ask you? You was an operator there for a while, worked at construction?
I was a laborer, although I do know how to operate D8, Terex scraper, and some of the other ones, yeah.
Did you go out to work out of that union hall in Kennedy?
Yes. Sat on the bench sometimes trying to get some work, yeah.
Do you remember when that union hall was over on Calumet Avenue across the street from Barton's?
I don't. I just remember it being on Kennedy and all those bars. If it was raining, you didn't get called out. You would just walk over to the bars.
Yeah, back in the mid '60s, I was a hog carrier. I worked out there in Munster when we were building. When they were just developing, there wasn't hardly any houses on Franklin Parkway.
So you're saying Laborers 41 used to be on Calumet Avenue?
Mm-hmm. You know where Wonder Bread is? Well, that's right there where the viaduct goes over the tracks there. It comes down on Michigan.
Yeah.
There's a blonde brick building there. That used to be the Hog Carriers 41 local. Because the BA that I had, his name was Gene Trippier. You ever hear of any of the Trippiers?
No.
Okay.
All right. Well, I will have to ask. I'm going to see these guys, I think, this weekend, or 2 weekends, and I'm going to see them at the Hard Hat Golf Outing. And I'll ask some of the old laborers if that used to be on Calumet Avenue. All right, man. Good talking to you. I got some young girls here. I'll talk to you. Thanks a lot for calling in. All right, guys. I'll be right back. AM 1230 WJOB in Hammond, Indiana. We're going to talk about planting some trees. Why not, huh?
Everything Italian. That's what you get at Giuseppe's restaurant in Cherville. Let's hear from Giuseppe himself.
We make our own gelato in-house. We do quite a bit of different flavors. We have like pistachio, chocolate. We do lemon and strawberry sorbet, and it's very, very good. It's smooth texture, very intense flavor. It's healthier, a little healthier, absolutely. Our cannolis, they're phenomenal. They're chocolate dipped. That's not common. My brother-in-law's cousin's wife, she makes the tiramisu and the cannoli, and they're just both very, very good.
Giuseppe's Everything Italian is located at 1000 Eagle Ridge Drive in Cherville, just north of the Showplace Theaters. Dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. 219-322-0011 or visit giuseppespizza.net.
Giuseppe's is now serving wine.
John Salzader, Democratic candidate for North Township Advisory Board. You have heard me on these airways before talking about my family charity, its events, and the groups it supports. Now I've decided to run for your North Township Board. I am well qualified and ready to work for you. Elect John Salzader.
Approved and paid for by the committee to elect John Salzader.
Elections matter, qualifications matter, integrity and honesty matters, and most of all, experience matters. The Honorable Lorenzo Arredondo possesses all of these qualities. Make a wise decision. Vote for Arredondo for clerk on May 8th. Arredondo for clerk. Honest, trustworthy, dependable, and experienced. And there's no substitute for experience.
My name is Lorenzo Arredondo, and I approve this message.
Paid for by the committee to elect Arredondo for clerk.
Theo's Steak and Seafood sets the standard of fine dining excellence. Delicious USDA prime meats and steaks, along with the freshest seafood in the area. Celebrate your special event with friends, family, and associates in our private dining room that can seat up to 125 people. For information, call 838-8000 or theoshighland.com. Also visit our other restaurants, Prime Steakhouse, Umi Sushi and Lounge in Crown Point, and Ted's Family Restaurant in Calumet City.
All right. Pretty good. Pretty neat. All right. Let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west now. 80 coming back this way, as is wont to happen, is you got a problem in downtown Joliet. So if you're coming back this way, you got a delivery truck driver or whatever. Accident downtown Joliet on I-80. And I don't know why there's so many in that area, but there is. If you're going northbound on the Bishop Ford, it starts getting bad about 115th on up to the southern end of the Dandelion. It's maybe a minor watch the Bishop Ford this morning. But approaching Jane Burns been kind of tough this morning, and that starts slowing down at 47th Street. Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65, US 30 are all moving along pretty well, even though we have the the snow on the ground and some ice hanging around. Things are moving along pretty well. As a matter of fact, it's a beautiful morning. Look at the sunrise just out to the east. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. What do you have in terms of the weather? We did have a little winter storm last night, but it should clear up and it should remain cold and a high of only 44 degrees. So kids, even though it's sunny outside and you don't want to wear your jacket, just don't be a kid. Just don't be an obstinate kid. And put your jacket on and go to school. And tomorrow, Friday, a high of only 52, mostly sunny and cool, but we will see some sunshine. Saturday, clouds and sun, and a high of 52. And then Sunday, a high of 60. Who's that out there? Who's that? Have her come on in, will you? We'll talk to her. Yeah, well, you want to come on in, Mom? No? Well, that's too bad. I think I'm going to make you. All right, what's your name?
My mom's name?
No, your name.
Oh, I'm Alyssa Nansen.
Alyssa Nansen, what grade are you?
I'm a sophomore at Munster High School.
A sophomore at Munster?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got a letter jacket there. Why do you have a letter jacket? What is it?
So I'm in track and cross country, and I also lettered in speech because I'm on the competitive speech team. And then I'll be getting my orchestra letter this year as well.
What do you play in the orchestra?
I play flute, and I actually started playing flute in band at St. Thomas More in, I'd say, like 4th grade, right? And when I got to the high school, I couldn't make the commitment to band because band is just like huge time consumption. So I was able to join the orchestra, which is just like a class during the day, which is like totally awesome. So I don't have to drop my flute after all the time I've put into it.
So you don't want to be out there and like for half the summer with that big tick-tock sound at the high school football field with everybody marching around over and over. See, I live close enough where you can hear it at night.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I can hear that every day.
Tick-tock, tick-tock, and then they have the big counter to keep the pace going.
Yeah,
It's like, are you guys almost done? I heard that song like 7 times
Yeah,
lately.
I know. They practice like all the time. They're out for hours. But if I did that, I'd also be running about 6 to 8 miles a day and then going to run march with the marching band. It's just a little over the top for me.
So is that your favorite? Is you like to run?
Yeah, actually, like running for me, it was kind of, it wasn't supposed to happen. When I started running, I joined cross country because my brother was in cross country and track, and I wanted to do whatever my brother did. And so I joined because I wanted to do field events. I found out after the first day that there are no field events in cross country, so I was ready to quit after the first day, but my mom was like, Alyssa, I already paid the registration fee. You're not quitting. And then I turned out to be good at it.
So let me get this straight. You joined cross country for the field events.
Yes, I did.
Really?
Not my proudest moment.
You gotta get up pretty early in the morning to get one by Lissa. What's your last name again, Lissa?
Nansen.
Lissa Nansen. So how do you know my nieces?
Well, I'm actually in student gov, and so she's vice president, so I kind of know her through that. I don't really know her personally.
Which one is?
Katie.
Katie is. I was at the school the other day, and I was just standing there with the resource officer as all the people were changing classes, and she just came running up to me, just bubbly, and kind of made a bunch of noise, and it was just good to see her in the school environment. Now, I went over there for the retirement of Leroy Marsh as a football coach, and we had a press conference there. But Jimmy Mulaney went to Bishop Knoll. He's asking me, like, was this what Munster was like when I was there, when you were there, Jed? I'm like, no, you changed classes, you walked outside. Now right out where the office is, there's this big open area, and all these kids walking through there at class changing time. It's very confusing. I hope everybody knows where they're going.
Yeah, so you have to know your schedule, and then you just have to hope you don't get lost, because when I was there the first day of school, I was coming from a small school with about 60 people in my grade at St. Thomas More. And when I came to the high school, we had some little initiation things through like Link Crew, and I was completely lost. And no matter how many times they took me around the school, I just couldn't figure it out. So the first week of school, I was just lost all the time. I had to ask people for directions.
You know, that's not an abnormal thing. I don't think that it's not just Munster. It's like, say, people go from St. Mike's to Lake Central, or if they go to St. Casimir and then they go to Hammond High or something like that. You know, you come out of the smaller Catholic grade school, or it's like, here's a big one, and is St. Edward's in Chesterton. They go to Chesterton High. Then you go to that big school. I mean, it's a huge jump. People don't realize that.
Absolutely. And like sometimes I'll go back to St. Tom's to like visit, and like it feels like the walls are closing in because the school's just so much smaller in comparison. But I mean, another thing with the high school now, you just know your schedule so well. You don't have to think when you walk. You just kind of show up in your classroom, and it's like, how did I get here?
So what do you do in speech?
So in speech and debate, I am in the speech half of it, and I am actually in the inter part. So it's interpretations of different like plays and movies and things like that. So I'm in duo, and I have a partner, Sammy Murez. And so this year we did a piece about a boy with autism and his friendship with a girl. And so he liked this girl more than a friend, but she didn't see him that way. And it was kind of just like the journey of coming to accept how, like, her acceptance of him, and then it just had a happy ending. So that was nice to see. We were able to portray that.
So do you have to get up on Saturday mornings and drive on a bus all the way across Indiana?
Yeah, we do. We'd meet at the school around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, wake up at 3, get your hair, makeup, put your suit on.
Ugh.
Oh,
I remember those days. And if there's anything that prepared me in my past for doing what I do now, which is I'm not just kind of sit here and just talk for like 2.5, 3 hours, is doing extemporaneous speech and getting on those bus rides. I mean, a lot of times the competitions start at 8 our time, and so you have to drive and get there at 4 and drive 3 hours, or Luckily, sometimes if it was an Elkhart, that was a short ride. That was only an hour and 45 minutes or something. But it really takes a lot of dedication, and then you don't realize it. You got to put nice clothes on.
Oh yeah,
and I mean you put your sweats on and take the ride, but as soon as you get there, you got to get dressed. Or a lot of people would just get dressed and wear that all day long. That in itself is an adjustment. Is to learn how to dress in a professional manner.
And then try adding heels to all that.
Oh, I quit wearing the heels after like my junior year. Hey, so you are doing something on Earth Day. What is Earth Day? April 22nd. What day of the week? Is that this weekend?
That's Sunday.
That's Sunday. So what are you doing?
So I started this off. So I did the PAGE program with Representative Mara Candelaria Reardon. And so what she had me do is she asked me what I wanted to do to like change my community. And so I gave her my input, and I wanted to do kind of a beautification project to unite like the older generations and the younger generations, because I feel like nobody even knows their neighbors anymore because everyone's just so busy all the time and nobody has time to go out, talk, and socialize with other people. So I wanted to do something to kind of bridge that gap. So I told Mara my idea, and I told her that I wanted to plant trees through Munster. And usually when you give your idea at the PAGE program, like my brother did it, his idea just fell through. They didn't really carry through with it.
What did he want to like build a racetrack in Munster or what?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Okay, good enough. So you want to plant these seedlings.
And so another reason for this is because of the emerald ash borer and the effects it's had on our community. So the emerald ash borer came into the United States around the year 2002 through wooden cargo from Asia. And ever since then, it began to kill like billions of ash trees. Like we're almost at 8 billion ash trees that have perished from this little beetle. And so one of the few ways there's different ways you can try to eradicate the beetle. So what either happens is your tree, eventually it dies. So what happens is the beetle works its way in. So it'll lay eggs on the leaves and the bark, and then the eggs will hatch. And then they have the little larvae that are going to just make their way through the bark. So that's why they call it the emerald ash borer, because they have this emerald color, and then they bore into the bark. And so what happens is they start eating the transportation tissues in the tree. So now water, nutrients, and any fertilizers you give to the tree can't be transported. So then the tree eventually just dies. And the only way to solve this problem is you have to remove the tree, because once it's dead, then you have falling limbs, which is just plenty of problems that causes to our communities as well.
We're talking to Lissa Nansen, and she is well-versed in the emerald ash borer. And I went yesterday, because it was nasty out, I went for a JED golf run around Wicker Park. And Frank Mervan had warned me that they had to take down more ash trees. And there's just piles of lumber all throughout the entire golf course. It's really sad that all of these trees are coming down. They're putting all sorts of seedlings up. It's going to take a number of years. They've just had to knock down hundreds of trees out there. So I know what you're talking about. So where are you getting? What exactly do you plan on doing on Sunday?
Okay, so what Representative Candelaria and I have decided is that in order to kind of fix the problem of removing all the trees, we want to plant trees to kind of make up for what's gone. And so we're going to meet at Town Hall from 1 to 3, and we're going to be planting little saplings throughout Munster. I'm not sure the exact locations of where we're planting yet, but I hope people can come out and help contribute to the cause.
So from 1 to 3, you're going now. How deep do you got to? I mean, how big are these seedlings, and where'd you get them from?
Well, she got them. I'm not really sure where she got them from.
Okay, well, I think Mara Candelaria Reardon's on the line. Representative, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Jed?
All right, doing well.
I see you got to meet the very impressive young leader that Alyssa Nansen is.
Yes, she is. She knows a lot about trees, too. Hey,
absolutely.
So let me just ask that direct question. You want to plant 400 trees around Munster. Where are you getting them from?
Well, we've partnered with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and they've provided us 4 different kinds of seedlings. So we've got black oak, sycamore, white pine, and what's the other one?
Black oak.
Silver maple.
I was going to say you probably have a maple in there. So,
yeah, a silver maple. So they provide us with the seedlings, and we've talked to the town of Munster and worked with them to find out where they think we need trees. And the other thing is that all 400 of these seedlings aren't for just the Munster Park. People can come and get seedlings and plant them in their own yards and beautify the neighborhood that way.
So hold on a second. If people show up at 1 o'clock to where again? Town Hall?
Yep.
Yes, the Munster Town Hall. We're going to meet at the Munster Town Hall. We will distribute seedlings and locations if you want to plant a tree. If not, if you want to plant a tree for the town. If not, we'll give you your own seedlings and you can plant them wherever you'd like.
Really?
Yes,
I don't know how many you have, but I'd plant a couple on my yard just because I've already.
Come on by, Jed.
I might have to. Don't live too far from there. So what is the? So you're able to get the Indiana Department of Natural Resources to work with you on this, then? And
yes.
Are they easy to work with?
Yes, they are. They're very efficient. They're very good at their job. They were very instructive and instrumental in telling me what kinds of trees are native to our region, because I am not as well versed as Alyssa is in trees. So I had to enlist their expertise on where to plant and what kind to plant.
So what was Alyssa like as a page in the Indiana State Legislature?
Well, she was quite inquisitive, and I'll say that she wasn't intimidated at all in telling me when I asked her opinion. A lot of these kids come down and they're a little bit shy about sharing their opinions with me about what they want to do with their lives or how they want to be impactful in their communities. And Alyssa was very forthright about what she wanted and what she saw in our community, and she misses that sense of community that she believes we need to get back to. And this project is kind of the genesis, and that was the genesis for this project, to bring the community together around something.
How does somebody get become a page?
Well, we have a page program that runs while we're in session, and you just log on. There's a website, iga.in.gov. That stands for Indiana General Assembly. So you can just Google that as well. And we accept pages starting at the age of 13 and moving forward. I, however, take them as young as they'd like to come, because I think it's never too early to start showing an interest in government.
All right, there it is. Thanks a lot, Mara. We appreciate you calling in, and we look forward to getting a whole bunch of trees around Munster.
Absolutely, and come on by and get a free tree for Earth Day.
All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you. Have you ever thought of extemp?
Extemp? I don't know. It's kind of like foreign ground. It's kind of scary. People don't usually go into it unless you're in debate. So we pull debaters over and do that. I could try it.
By the way, and this just isn't for like people at Munster, for any of the high schools, the kids are coming up and they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And then you get into high school and you're like, well, what club should I join or whatever? I can tell you guys from experience, I played 3 sports in high school, and Helen Engstrom and Mary York just were haranguing me to be on the speech team. And finally I did it, I think, in my junior and my senior year, and got decent at it as a senior. I wasn't very good as a junior. I was just kind of like an athlete trying something else. But by the time I was done, basically what they do, I worked with a girl by the name of Janice Levy. She went on to be Microsoft's attorney, and she was very organized. You had to read all these magazines, and you had to clip and put them in files, and then you had to bring your files. So in the beginning, I thought they wanted me to do it because I was a little bit stronger and I could pick up the boxes and I could put them onto the carts and carry them into the different meets. But really what you do with extemporaneous speech, and I think that the attorney coming up here also was a speech guy that's coming in here, but they give you I don't know if this is the same rules, but they come up with a question like what should America's trade policy with China be? That would be like a question. Yep. Should America restrict the purchase of semi-automatic weapons, right? And then you have 1/2 an hour to put together a speech, and you have the speech. You have 5 to 7 minutes to give that speech in a room with 3 or 4 3 judges usually.
Yeah, usually about 3.
Yeah, 3 judges. And then that is the extent of it. And every once in a while, they would hand you a slip of paper, and it would have a question that you didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you learn, and I hope your mom's okay with this, that you learned the gift of BS. And if you guys are wondering how, like, something will come up and I could talk about it and really have just a scant amount of knowledge about it and be able to expand on that, I learned that in extemporaneous speaking.
Yeah, it's definitely a life skill right there.
And there's a certain kind of person that goes into it, too.
Oh, for sure.
And you could tell them. You could tell who they are because they grow up to be the people that are pretty good. They go into, a lot of them are lawyers, radio hosts. They very rarely do you come out of extemp and next thing you know, you're a doctor. It just doesn't happen. You're not that kind of person. Well, good luck with you. Anybody wants to come out at 1 o'clock, Munster Town Hall. It's supposed to be sunny. Shouldn't be a bad
it's supposed
day.
To be pretty nice.
All right,
and snow.
So, what do you ultimately want to do with your life?
Me? I have absolutely no idea. I'm pretty lost.
What kind of college? Have you thought about a university yet?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking for my career, I think I'm probably going to go into health eventually, but it was either, for a point in my life, it was between politics, law, and the health field. So I'm kind of trying to narrow that down right now.
You got a few years to decide. Once you go, one of the things that I always think is that people, like if you go to Purdue, they put you in these little silos and they say, well, what do you want to be? And you got to go to that school and so forth. You go to, maybe I use a little more forgiving, but I always think that, people kind of make that decision a little bit early. So, there's a lot of, you're doing the page thing, right? Next thing you know, you're probably like, cart sick people around community hospital to see if you like that, right? And then next thing you know, all right, I've got enough experience.
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities to try so many things. You just got to get yourself out there.
She is Alyssa Nansen, and quite the project going on Sunday. And I will leave this here, and our host will continue to promote it, see if we can't get all 400 of those seedlings planted on the weekend, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, guys, I'll be right back here on the voice and face of the region.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
John Salzader, Democratic candidate for North Township Advisory Board. You have heard me on these airways before talking about my family charity, its events, and the groups it supports. Now I've decided to run for your North Township Board. I am well qualified and ready to work for you. Elect John Salzader.
Approved and paid for by the committee to elect John Salzader.
Ogren Insurance has been serving the area since 1947 and provides insurance for life, home, auto, business, and more. If you're looking for one-on-one service, the best rates, knowledge, and experience, Ogren Insurance is your agency. Our number one goal is to provide you with the coverage you need at the most competitive price. To learn about the insurance solutions and services we offer in Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or see our website, ogreninsurance.com. Ogren Insurance, 6929 Holman Avenue in Hammond. Accidents happen. Be protected with Ogren Insurance.
On May 8th, vote for Democrat Andrew Silvestrowitz for Lake County Clerk of Circuit Courts. Andrew is a qualified Democrat and has 12 years of experience as a councilman in Maryville at every facet of government. Make your vote count with Andrew Silvestrowitz for Clerk of Circuit Courts. Paid for by committee to elect Democrat Andrew Silvestrowitz.
I am Andrew Silvestrowitz, and I approve this message.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Hey, let's go to 7:38 in the Calumet region. Moving a little bit behind schedule. My name's Jim Diedlow, host of JED in the region. 8 o'clock, Ryan, who do we have? What's that? PNW today is coming up in just a little bit. So right now, let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city is a little bit heavy from Cicero on up past the Stevenson. 80 going west looks good. Coming back east is a total mess through downtown Joliet. And the Bishop Ford, a little bit heavy, 115th on up through the southern end of the Dan Ryan. It is a minor. Watch the Bishop Ford. And then as you approach Jane Byrne, it kind of starts slowing down heavy around 47th in both the local and the express. Skyway Toll Road, Barman, I-65, US 30, Klein Avenue, all moving along pretty well. In terms of sponsorship there, Neepleton River Oaks Honda proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And, hey, listen, have you written a book? Learn how to get it published and potentially sold online and at bookstores. Call Page Publishing now for your free book publishing kit, 800-470-4833. And in terms of the weather, as you guys can see right now, unless you're in a little box at the mill or something, it's pretty sunny out to the east, clearing and cold, a high 44. Right now it's 36 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. And tomorrow, let's see, a high of 44 today, clearing and cold. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and cool, a high of 50, 52. Then Saturday, same thing, high of about 52, cool with periods of sun. And then by Sunday, turning cloudy, but hey, you know what? It gets up to be 60 degrees. Knock, knock, who's there? All right, in terms of sponsorship there, thanks a lot to our good friends at Ironworkers Local 395. They build stuff. In terms of the markets, really not doing much overnight as you're looking at, let's see, the Dow is down 50 and the S&P's down about 7. So really not a lot of movement overnight. Locally, we have had two men, Pinkins and Glenn, who have been exonerated by the DNA evidence, are suing the Hammond police. Also, some kind of tough news on the business front in that Carson's really is going to close the South Lake Mall location as Bonton was unable to find a buyer for the stores. But also, it looks like they're going to close the Hammond location. No dates set on that yet. A huge blow to retailing and to the many people that are going to lose their jobs here in the Calumet region. Mark Shockey, how you doing, man?
Living the dream, Jim. How are you?
Hanging out. Mark is an attorney for how long?
I've been practicing since 2011, so it's about 7 years now.
7 years, and he is with Dave Gladish and Doug Walker on 45th, and every once in a while we just come in and talk about what's going on in the law world. And unlike Gladish and Walker, who come in with copious legal pads, Mark Shockey is an alum of the Munster Speech and Debate program, so he doesn't need notes.
I'm actually a Highland speech.
Oh, I'm sorry, Highland, my fault.
That's okay. You know what? Actually, you can confuse me with Munster anytime because they're a class act. I mean, seriously, they were competition for us that always put me through my paces.
You know, the one of the things that Shockey and I have in common is that we come out of extemporaneous speaking in high school. And it takes a certain kind of individual to do that in high school.
I would agree.
It really does. I mean, if you think about it, it's people that I don't know how would you describe the average extemp person?
Well, I mean, you got to be a little bit different. You got to be a little bit kind of on the edge in a sense. I mean, you gotta have some research skills, and you got to have some BS skills, and a little bit of knowledge, as you were just explaining on the air. Just all those things together, and I think some confidence, mix that all together, and you're an extemp speaker.
You know, one of the, there are like harrowing moments in your youth and in your teenage years. And as an extemp speaker, one of the harrowing moments is when you go all the way to Elkhart, or you go all the way to some high school outside of Indianapolis or Terrible Hode or even further down, and you go to a big meet, and then even the state meet, and you're sitting there waiting, and you have been up and down current events, and you know them up and down, and you've researched them, and have an idea where they're going to go. And then I don't know anymore if they hand you a little slip of paper, but back then they would hand you a little slip of paper, and you look at it and you go, I don't have any knowledge of this topic at all, and I have 1/2 of an hour to prepare a full 5 to 7 minute disciplined speech.
Oh yeah,
there is that moment of panic.
You know, I remember those days, and I kind of wonder how it works these days because the internet, I mean, it was a thing when I was in high school, but mobile phones were, you know, dinosaurs at the time. You couldn't just pull out your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever and just, you know, Google something. I think these days the kids probably have that advantage because, you know, at least when I was doing extemp, I would have to, you know, go through Newsweek and U.S. News and World Report, you know, once a week and clip articles, file them in this big Tupperware container or almost like file case that I would bring with me, had a bunch of files in it. And if I didn't have an article about the topic, I mean, that was it. That's all she wrote. You have to come up with something on the fly. But, you know, now in 2018, I assume that many of these high school students have some type of way to just Google information and figure it out, which has got to be a huge advantage.
A huge, because you're right. I mean, I remember going to clip parties. I don't think Highlands is as big of a speech and debate program as Munster has always been. But I mean, yeah, and so I would go there, and there'd be like 6 extempers sitting around, and we would be. I mean, I was really not very much of a contributor, but I had to show up and make jokes, and you know, a couple of them were fairly attractive young women at the time, and so that does help. And so, you know, I didn't mind that part of it. And Mrs. Levy would bring out cookies and stuff like that. So you would have you know, you'd have these parties, and you just have to clip for hours. And you're right, if they handed you a piece of paper that you had not clipped an article on, you're done.
Right.
I mean, you better. I mean, you're not winning that one. You know,
well,
you're not placing.
I will tell you this. So I also competed in impromptu speeches, which there is no preparation for that. They give you, I think, a quote or, you know, 1 or 2 sentences, and it's usually by a famous person, and then they give you 30 seconds, and you've got to put something together about whoever wrote this quote. I mean, you have to interpret what it means half the time because it's usually something from Teddy Roosevelt or something, and you got to think to yourself, well, wait a second. So this guy was a Rough Rider. This guy was the president, the Bull Moose Party. You got to come up with some periphery, and if you have no idea, I mean, just pull out the BS at that point. So I think that, you know, that's kind of was helpful about doing 2 at once. The extemp you can sort of prepare for. Impromptu, there is no preparation. So
there's also no wrong answer.
True.
You do the extemp, you got to hit a couple of things. I mean, basically, you got to have 2 main points or 3 main points, and most of the judges are going to be versed on all of that stuff because they're speech people and they're into it and stuff, and they're going to know if you don't know.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
You know, and impromptu, you just throw a couple zingers in there. If you make your judges laugh, you're going to do okay.
Right. Of course. You know, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of an art in and of itself, right? Because a lot of the impromptu guys that I saw, they were not the
they didn't have zingers, man.
No. It was a little rough sometimes, but that's okay.
Yeah, you think you're laying a great zinger on them, and not one wrinkle of a mouth, not one giggle, not anything, and you're like, whoa, I better not go that direction.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I actually had a competition. I think it was against Chesterton, and you probably know. So the powerhouses in the region,
Munster and Chesterton,
exactly. So Chesterton was there. They showed up. Munster showed up. You know, and I'm just kind of the periphery, right? So I show up for this impromptu. It's a quote. I have no idea what it means. Who said it? I couldn't identify them. I get in there and I just make some crazy stuff up. And these guys are sort of my friends because I see them at every competition, and they're just dying. You know, I throw a zinger in there and they're laughing just out loud. Right? These competitors against me. The judge was not having it. The judge thought, how rude of them to laugh at what I was saying, and so I ended up pulling a first because they all got defaulted. It was ridiculous.
Oh, really? So in impromptu they can watch your thing.
Oh yeah.
Because in extemp you just go in a room.
Right. That's
yeah.
correct.
There's a difference there too. So you actually have a small audience then. Yeah.
That is correct. So you know that was kind of like my stand-up hour for 10 minutes.
Well, I think Mark Shockey has a future if this law thing doesn't work out, and perhaps some stand-up. Mark, let's talk a couple of law things right now.
Sure.
Right now at the national level, one of the major legal issues right now is that the feds raided Michael Cohen's apartment. I don't know why he has an apartment and he's living in a hotel. And that's neither here nor there.
He's got a more interesting life than I do, for sure.
And then he then also his office, and he took all this stuff, and much of it pertains to Donald Trump. It's really his only main client other than Sean Hannity, which we'll leave out, and the RNC guy. So you have all of this correspondence between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen, and the whole world's trying to figure out, hey, man, isn't that like attorney-client privilege? Trump's asserting it. Cohen's asserting it. A lot of legal experts are asserting it. And then there are other legal experts are saying, well, not all of it is. What's going on here?
Yeah, so the sacred cow of the legal world is the attorney-client privilege. So when you go in and you talk to an attorney and you retain them as your counsel, anything that you say to that attorney, they can't divulge unless you as the client give permission to do so. It's interesting because you just said Cohen, is claiming it. He really has nothing to claim. It's just Donald Trump that has the privilege. It's always the client. The client can waive that privilege if they want to, but the attorney can never really waive it on the client's behalf. So it's kind of a one-way road, and it's all the cards are held by the president at this point, the way I see it. Some states, they codify this in their state law, but obviously we're seeing, the feds here, so we're looking at a completely different ballgame. It's federal versus state. I know that it's been around since, the dawn of attorneys showing up at the bar back in England when barristers and solicitors were showing up to the literal bar. It's been around for a very long time. It's an interesting take that some federal judge has authorized the FBI to essentially breach that, which is interesting.
So we've heard this term a bunch of times on the national news. They sent in a taint team, and it's kind of thrown around even in the print media that we all know what a taint team is. What is it?
You're confusing me right now. I've never heard the term before.
Now the taint team, as far as I understand, is they send a team in to look at it about what they can send to the prosecutor. So the issue would be, what can the prosecutors see? Now we have another local case that is also claiming this, and that is James Snyder, and that the feds have seen a number of communications between Snyder and his attorneys. And they're claiming that the prosecutor should not have seen those. So, we're seeing this exact thing, attorney-client privilege, playing out here, right over here on Holman Avenue, that it's playing down on K Street in Washington.
Right.
And it's a tough topic to discover, because people come to you and they want to say, all right, well, what happened? And are people going to start going to their attorneys and saying, well, hey, is this privilege? Will anybody find out about this? If that stuff gets broken wide open, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit, at least in the back of clients' minds. Would you agree?
I would agree. And this is kind of the chilling effect, potentially, of having individuals almost scared to talk to their own attorney about, the truth and the facts of what happened. We can't have that. Because if you have a client that's not communicating well with the attorney cannot serve them very well at all. In this case, it's interesting because there's a lot of caveats in the ethical rules, right? So you've got an almost absolute attorney-client privilege, but at the same time, if the client comes to the attorney and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about breaking this law, okay, and I need your advice on the best way to break the law," well, that's not permissible either. You can't have a client asking an attorney how to permissibly break a law and the attorney help him out on that. Now that would not work. Now if you have a client coming in and saying, hey, I did break the law and how do I handle it, that's a completely different scenario, and that is permissible, right? There's the distinction there. So
where do you think this is going to go at the national level? This is that it is the Southern District of New York going after Cohen in New York.
Right.
And then you have, some issues of what was going on in Washington with Donald Trump. And so you have a federal prosecutors that are out of the Southern District. They're not Robert Mueller. And so, there's a weird dynamic here of what can happen, especially if Cohen turns.
Yeah.
So what if he turns? What happens?
Well, if he turns, he's potentially going to get disbarred. I mean, that's issue number one. Now, I mean, because you cannot divulge your client's confidential information. I mean, that's
as a lawyer.
As a lawyer, that's ethics 101, right? I mean, I think whatever state bar Mr. Cohen's in, I presume it's going to be New York, maybe Washington, D.C. as well. That's going to potentially be an issue for him. And that's going to be a decision that he's going to have to make. Let's say that they give him prosecutorial immunity, he doesn't have to face criminal charges. He would still have to probably face some type of ethics inquiry, I would think, in terms of his bar license. And if you're a guy like me and Dave Gladish and Doug Walker, we need our bar licenses to survive. It's not something that we can just take lightly. This isn't something that most attorneys are willing to even entertain at any point.
He's Mark Shockey. He's a local attorney. Every once in a while, Gladys comes in and we talk about law stuff. Today, it's Mark Shockey out of his office. Hey, let's see how Jackie's doing. This may not be a law question. We'll just see how she's doing. Hey, Jackie, how are you today? Hey, Jackie? Knock, knock. We lost Jackie. Hey, you guys want to talk to us? 219-845-1100. We'll be right back on the voice and face of the region.
Carpenters Local 599 joins with other Carpenter locals to build the local economy and has been doing so for over 117 years. We are proud to be a member of the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio Regional Council of Carpenters, which is threefold: training, professionalism, and partnership. We also offer some of the best benefits in the industry. To find out how to become a member of Carpenters Local 599, contact us at 219-942-0518 or log on to ikorcc.com.
Hi, this is Ellen from Quick Scripts Pharmacy, and here is your countdown of the top 5 reasons to switch your prescriptions to Quick Scripts in 2018. Number 5, your hometown pharmacy just got bought out by a 3-letter big box chain. Number 4, you go to your pharmacy and don't recognize anyone. Number 3, it takes 3 weeks to get a medication you ordered yesterday. Number 2, they no longer take your insurance and you just found out after you left the emergency room. And number 1, you just really love our staff at Quick Scripts. Wishing you a happy and healthy 2018 from our Quick Scripts family to yours. Stop into any one of our 3 locations serving Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana today.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? 756 in the Calumet region. Final traffic update today. 294 around the city is bad from Cicero on up past the Stevenson. Allow some extra time if you're going that way up to O'Hare. Coming back from on I-80, coming back to the region is bad for several miles through downtown Joliet on an accident. Bishop Ford, as you approach the, come off the backside of the Steel Bridge, fairly shortly after that, you will get some stop and go all the way through the merge into the southern end of the Dan Ryan. Also, as you approach Jane Byrne, it's bad 47th on in. The Skyway and the toll road look pretty good. So does Borman, I-65, US 30. US 30 a little bit of trouble. East and west through the Broadway area there. It's just kind of heavy. But other than that, things are moving. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. What do you got in terms of the weather going forward? It's cold. It's 35 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. But at least it's sunny, clearing and cold today, and a high of 44. High of 52 Friday and Saturday. Both days kind of clouds and sun. And then by Sunday, it clouds up pretty much, but we do hit 60 degrees. And weather is brought to you by our good friends at Laborers Local 41, of which I am a proud alum. Mark Shockey. The Rod Blagojevich got shot down in the Mark Shockey is a local attorney in Dave Gladys's office. Hey, Jimmy, just give us the group shot. That lighting's bad. Thank you. Is with Dave Gladys's office, and Blagojevich got shot down. What happened there?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone's favorite former Illinois governor Rod Blagojevich has been in an appeal for, I think he had some ridiculously long sentence, although some may say it's warranted. And he's appealed that up all the way through the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, and now he finally got his last round through the U.S. Supreme Court. Interestingly, the U.S. Supreme Court has discretion on what cases they actually want to hear, whether they think it's a significant enough case to come before them, and they finally shot him down for the last time. They didn't comment on it. They just didn't want anything to do with it. I think largely just because it's such a tainted issue. I mean, in essence, the allegations or the conviction is that he tried to sell a United States Senate seat belonging to former President Obama, and here we are trying to get himself out of. He's trying to make an issue of what is an appropriate way to solicit campaign contributions versus what is selling a Senate seat. He's trying to make an issue of, you're splitting hairs here. I'm a politician, but the U.S. Supreme Court is just not having it. They don't want to wade into it. I think it's one of these situations where if it feels wrong, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So I presume that's how the court felt on it, and he's going to be stuck in the clink for the next several years unless Donald Trump gives him a pardon or some kind of commutation. Interestingly, Scooter Libby was just officially pardoned. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he was a Dick Cheney associate. He was the chief of staff for the former vice president of the U.S. Donald Trump just, in fact, within the last week or so, gave Mr. Libby a full pardon. If you remember, George Bush gave him a commuted sentence, but he still had, the felony conviction on his record. So now he's been completely pardoned by Donald Trump. So, hey, Trump is interested in giving pardons. You never know. Blagojevich may have some hope out there.
He's Mark Shockey. Thanks, Mark, for coming in. I appreciate it. Gladys is on one of his many jaunts, I'm sure.
Yes.
And we appreciate you coming in and talking about some of this law stuff. Hey, guys, I want to remind you that later in the day, Gino comes up at noon. Coming up now is going to be PNW Today. And later on in the afternoon, you have Sam Michael at 1 o'clock. He is a pride of Highland, Indiana, just like Mark Shockey. Sam is cutting his teeth on his own show from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, and it's called Sam in the Midday, and you guys are more than welcome to watch it on Facebook and or listen to it. Tony Ponick goes at 3. He also is cutting his teeth. We've got some really good talent around here to draw on, and we're kind of, I guess, working it in through the farm system of the early afternoon, and we'd love for you guys to listen to those young guys learn how to do radio and do streaming video. Then at 4 o'clock today, Ron Harlow is still out. Ron, of course, had brain surgery, and we're all thinking about Ron. And I know that we have somebody today at 4. The whole Tony Ponick is going to do that show. Chuck Pullen is taking some. Tom Dabberton. I think Dave Kuziak's going to take some of those shows. We do it as a community here because it is local radio. But while Harlow's out, we do have some fill-ins, and anybody else that might want to take one of those that has been part of the team in the past, give us a call because we are looking to fill those 4 to 6 slots. All right, guys, got a full day of local radio. It starts right now with Richard Rupp and PNW Today, and it continues on the rest of the morning into the afternoon now, and it's all because of great sponsors like Napleton River Oaks. Honda is having a spring clear out. Here it is.